Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a great start to the day. Hope you've enjoyed some of the first panels and discussions that have been had on the main stage. We're about to kick off the innovation stage with all things great energy, startup, and the likes. I hope you had a really good time at the Desert Experience yesterday. I really enjoyed dining out there. It wasn't even too hot. That was one of my fears, wearing a suit. We're going to have the gala experience later today, so I hope you all got your tickets. I do think that there are a few tickets still remaining, so feel free to go to one of the info points and get yours if you don't have it already. For all of you that are around the stage, feel free to come in, grab a headset. You'll be able to listen in to everybody here, just as if you were in a one-on-one Zoom call with them. And then even after, you can jump off stage and go and speak to them if you have any questions. So I'd say, without further ado, we're going to be speaking a lot today on this stage about three main topics: operational resilience, education, and adoption. Those are really, I think, the three main topics of the whole summit. So I hope you've been learning a lot, networking, and hopefully ready to build some great applications and, yeah, grow the community together. So this next topic, and the first one today, is one that's actually quite close to my heart. It's one that got me involved in this space 7 years ago. Tokenization of assets, the ability to democratize investment solutions and opportunities for everyone. And I hope you're all going to enjoy it here. So on that note, Sandro from the Cardano Foundation, I'll let you come on stage and introduce your panel. Let's take it from there. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, hello. Okay, now. I hope you can hear me. Hello, everyone. Pleasure. Thanks for being here. I'll let my panelists take a seat. Is the volume okay? Good. I need to turn up mine a little. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I
Good.
think it's
perfect. Now it's okay. Perfect. Great. So, welcome. What a wonderful day after yesterday. A vibrant day with the great closure at evening. And I'm super happy to welcome you here, to see everybody's awake and ready to actually take the panel. And I would like to introduce you to my great panelists for today's session. We have Monty from LCX. You cannot hear me?
You need to wear your headset.
All right, sorry for that. Monty from LCX. And you have Nilay from Right Circles, Marcus from Bridge Tower Capital, and Breeze from Realis. So it's a great pleasure to actually have them here on board to speak about this super exciting topic about actually real-world asset tokenization and how it actually shapes the future, the digital future. One of the key questions probably to start with then will be a bit, what is real-world asset tokenization? What is needed for? What does it change in the ownership? But before we start the panel, I would like to have a quick introduction so the audience knows who is here, what type of field of expertise you're in. So Monty, maybe starting with you, what brought you into the blockchain space and how do you contribute with LCX to the development and disruption with the new technology?
So my name is Monty Metzger. I'm CEO and founder of LCX, which stands for Liechtenstein Crypto Assets Exchange. I'm an entrepreneur by heart, built my first company in the 90s, become a VC for a couple of years, and now back in the entrepreneur seats, which is much more exciting. And we are at the forefront of tokenization, as LCX is a regulated entity under the Liechtenstein law, and we gained a role, a registration called the physical validator, which I can explain later a little bit more, but it's basically the bridge between the physical world and the digital world. And that's why we think the future will be tokenized and unlocking a new trillion-dollar market. Probably the next wave of the whole crypto industry will be driven by tokenized financial assets or tokenized real-world assets. And that's why I'm here.
Perfect, thank you so much. And I think you already mentioned a couple of very important things when we speak about how can we combine the physical and the digital world, and great the contribution you provide to the whole ecosystem and the industry. So thanks a lot for being here. Nilay, we heard about from the regulated space, it's the more centralized space, let's call it as well a bit. You are having a bit of different approach, really building from scratch with this blockchain enthusiasm to build a fully decentralized world. Maybe you can give a bit of insight where you're coming from and what you are building these days.
Correct. Hi, my name is Nilay Shah. So I have a very tech background. So I came into Cardano like in the launch of Shelly. And I have worked in different industries. Mostly I've been employed in Germany, Netherlands. So I'm quite aware, and also in regulated institution. So I have a banking background for a short time. So I'm quite aware of all the regulatory systems that are currently in place. So when I came to Cardano, it drove me mostly towards saying that, okay, like can we kind of get rid of these power centers that we have? And we have personally, like within friends and families, we have real estates, and one of the things that struck us was that can we release the value of these estates, and think of crypto cycles. If you could release the value, invest and buy it back, for example, right? And that kind of motivated me to think about how I can contribute to this space. And there, along with my friend, he's actually Anurag in the California. We thought about this business model and how we can actually do better than what we do currently. So that's why it's set about building up reach circles. So we have developed that platform. We have released the alpha version of it. So you can actually go and join our Discord, and you can actually try out that. And in that platform, what we're trying to take is an approach that says that how you actually tokenize or go about dealing with the real estates in real world, and how you can transfer all these processes and data onto the blockchain. So there are many complex processes in the real world when you actually have to deal with real estate. So when you have to buy a real estate, when you have to notarize a real estate and other things, right? And these are processes that leads you to finally get something called a title deed, for example, and through that title deed you get the ownership rights, right? You pay, you finish all these processes. And that's why I said about first in the step is that mostly what you see in real world tokenization is that people just put the real estate on the platform, and the data entirely that behind it, the off-chain data, stays offline. And that cannot be a transition to the blockchain world where all the data actually should be on the blockchain that you transfer trust. So that's what Reach Circles has been building. Our team has almost 75 years of total work experience, very senior team are there. And from that standpoint, it will help us also to penetrate the market of the regulated space. And just as a side note, our platform being built, we are also releasing our token called REIT in the coming months. And all that information you can find in the Discord. That's it from me.
Exciting, thank you very much, and looking forward to actually go into production very soon. Then Marcus, as the president of blockchain ecosystem with Bridge Tower Capital, please provide the audience a bit insight in your role, what you're building, and where you see some of the developments on the tokenization from your side, which is probably more on the sustainability aspect when you're speaking about carbon. But
yeah, sure. But let me start differently. You know, the gentleman who just introduced the panel, he was saying that it was actually tokenization which got him into the blockchain and the crypto industry, right? And this resonated extremely with me because it was the same, right? It was not Bitcoin back in 2016 when I started in the industry. It was tokenization, right? It's tokenization of real-world assets and more or less bringing everything on-chain, make it tradable, make it way more efficient. This was a vision and a concept which completely resonated with me. That said, which year do we have? 2023, right? So I still believe in the vision, period. But I'm also realistic. It will take longer. It will take a lot longer. We see now with State Street, they have tokenized LP shares on their blockchain, right? They're trading these trillions of tokenized fund shares more or less on a daily basis. Tokenization is starting. But I think, again, you know, I started 2016, fall in love with the concept, and I still believe in the vision. but to be realistic, it will still take a while. Now switching from negative to, or from realistic to positive, and you mentioned ESG and carbon credits. What we currently see is that in particular tokenized carbon credits, this is the entry drug for a lot of institutional investors, ranging from family offices up to larger asset managers. They have a huge demand to compensate or to invest in carbon credits, and they are now, with tokenization, as we have the highest quality carbon credits on the blockchain, they're really forced to deal with it. They want to do it. They're solving the custody needs, they're solving the compliance needs, and they're doing it. So I see now it's finally starting. Bridge Tower, real quick, coming to your point. So we're also doing multiple things, ranging from, we have a tokenization engine, right, for non-fungible tokens as well as fungible tokens, including security tokens. We developed something like kind of a permission market on top of a public market. So we are whitelisting multiple wallets, right? So you can trade on a public blockchain your security tokens very compliantly between KYC and KYB parties. And we're now doing that also in the art space, not only in the carbon credit space. So we're really trying to push into multiple industries, but we are extremely demand driven. So we're really trying to listen to the clients where the demands are currently.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And we hear that there is kind of pretty much a value chain, a value proposition across the panelists, because they are actually add value through the different life cycle of a tokenized asset. And happy to have Breeze here now as well, who is going into a bit a similar direction as we have heard from Nilay when we speak about real estate, but a bit from a different angle. Please.
Yeah, so my name is Breeze. I'm the CEO of Realize. Like Marcus just mentioned, it's very, very interesting where we are today. Because we see a lot of institutional moving in. I'm not a tech guy. I have some issues already with my wallet to send some ADA or whatever, so it's very complicated. I come from real estate investment. But what is tokenization bringing is the ability for a lot of people, like all of us, to have access to investment. So what we've done is we built an end-to-end platform, meaning it's very easy, very seamless to invest in any kind of real-world asset, which can be real estate, because it's the easiest for everyone to understand, but any tangible asset. So it can be funds, it can be commodities, it can be diamonds, it can be many, many things. But to go along with Marcus, where it's a bit sad, and that's great, you are all here, is we see a lot of buzz and we get a lot of requests. I would like to do this, I would like to do that, how can I invest? But we need you. We need you to come to us, say, okay, how does it work? How can I try? And spread the word. So that's very, very important. We are releasing the platform starting in 2 weeks, where we will be regulated in all Europe. So anyone from Europe can invest and in any kind of asset. And what we want is, in the same as the Cardano ecosystem, same as the Web3, is to partner with as many companies as possible to help them to use our platform, or for us to use their services to develop and grow.
Thank you very much. And one thing which resonates well, it's actually we said we need all of you. So this is a journey we go together. We need to have interoperability. We need to actually have partners on our side, left, right, up and down. So that's not a single fight, but we really want to use this beautiful technology to change for the better. And when we speak about the technology aspect here, what is it, in your opinion, that brings the value of the blockchain into the real world, when you actually think about what type of physical good you potentially can tokenize? And then it would also be interesting to hear a bit what is the blockchain trilemma plays the role in here to actually achieve the goals we have. Maybe Nilay, from your side, how do you see blockchain or the role of blockchain?
Yeah, so I mean, it started off very simply. I can tell you only, like, from the technology perspective, being a technologist for almost last 25 years, when I first came to Cardano, like, why did I come to Cardano, first of all? Like, I knew Bitcoin, so I started the white paper, I knew Bitcoin, I knew about the concept that now you have actually removed the need of human trust from the entire society to say that the trust can be put onto the blockchain. That's so if you read through the entire Bitcoin white paper, one thing stands out is that so-called the disintermediation of trust. That when I have to send any value transfer, not only money, but anything of value, right? It can be assets, it can be anything of value. Even when I speak to you, it's a value transfer, right? Now, whenever I do value transfer in real world, you see that you have to go through an intermediary, right? So that's what Bitcoin removed. It disintermediated trust, saying that, hey, look, don't worry about the value transfer can be now done by an alternate method, right? Then when I saw Cardano and the way they were structuring themselves and they were developing the software, that struck a chord with me because they were trying to do things the right way. They were developing the software, they were research-oriented background, and they were trying to do things as it should be done in normal world of software. You try to develop a structure, and that's why you see that Cardano is quite different. Now, this disintermediation of trust is a very important thing because it means that now if you pick up any real-world asset, like real estate, if you have to transfer that value of a real estate or any parts of it from one person to the other person, right? Or any entity to other entity, now you should be able to actually use this technology of disintermediation of trust also for this kind of assets. That's what actually triggered me because now I said, okay, now how does the real world function? What are the centralized institutions that happen for this particular asset class, right? And then I said, okay, how can I then, and I have, as I told you, a little bit of banking background, and banks are, as you know, the centralized institution that controls much of the value chain in this respect, right? They give out loans, but in the process, they carry over all the other value chain like verification, notarization, and many other things. They actually take it into themselves. Now, that created a too much centralized system, which we have currently, and how you can disintermediate that. And that's why I started off saying that if you have to do that, you actually have to hit at the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not only that they send out money, but also they take over the rest of the part that you cannot do without them. So gradually, if you have to, let's say, remove this kind of centralization, we said verification of the system. How can you bring all the data that is there in the real world, real estate market onto the blockchain, and that continues from there. So I leave it at that, and we can have a further discussions.
I think Monty is more than happy to add his comments.
Yeah, I mean, we love the Cardano community, and I'm a true believer that we are at the tipping point of Cardano and also about the whole crypto and blockchain industry. I wrote this book, Blockchain Banking, which released in January, and I dedicated a whole chapter on tokenization and talked about the benefits. And I think that's something important to understand because tokenization not only brings efficiency, like working on the Cardano blockchain, highly efficient and fast. Second is unlocking illiquid assets. So it could be real estate, it could be markets which are intransparent and illiquid. And third is bringing much more transparency, including price transparency. And we were looking for an example on a showcase on how to explain it to regulators, partners, banks, how tokenization could work. And we stumbled upon the diamond market, which is mainly for jewelry or B2B industry, but there's a investment class also inside, so diamonds as an investment. But it's highly intransparent. You can't trade it, really. There's no buyers, sellers, and there are no global marketplaces. So that's where we tapped into. And yesterday, Patrick from NMaker made the big announcement where we said we bring the tokenized diamonds to Cardano. And together with Timons, that's our platform, timons.com, we launched the first real-world tokenized diamonds on Cardano as a showcase. And yeah, you have all the chance to get a real-world tokenized diamond there right here.
This is truly amazing to see actually what is happening, and I think this makes it actually accessible for people to understand the value behind the tokenization. But when we hear now, it's about accessibility, it's about ownership, transparency, trust. There are so many important key aspects. Why don't we see more momentum? The last 7 years since Ethereum, when we had the introduction of smart contracts, we have seen a lot of hype about meme coins and stuff like this. What is it with tokenization? Why did we miss the train, or what are we lacking to actually drive the adoption here?
Yeah, it's Marcus started to share that some big institutions are already doing the tokenization. So it's things that we don't see, but they are playing with billions. When you play with billions, it's very easy. So my friend, he has a bank. I tokenize his fund. I sell his fund and shares to my other friends. It's a lot moving, but we don't see it. So that's why the example with diamonds, with REIT, what we are doing is to bring this to actual people, to us. And this is, the traction is growing. The thing is, you are mentioning about the trilemma. The big issue is we want something decentralized, because with tokenization, not only you have access to normal investment, but you can have access to DeFi, because what you own is a token, and this token can be used on decentralized exchange. That's one thing. But on the other hand, you want security, because you want to make sure that your investment is safe. So you still need a regulatory framework. So why is it slow? Because the regulator is slow. He has to adapt and change. So now in Europe, we have MiCA coming next year. So we have a framework. Now that we have a framework, we can work within this framework to bring massive adoption. But again, to bring massive adoption, we need two things. We need the education, and on the Cardano Foundation, you can soon have more education programs. So I tried some, it's very nice. And we need education in this kind of events and sharing. So you have to come and ask questions. What is in for you? Why should you do that? Most of you have probably a wallet already, so you can all own a share of something of the real world. So yeah, we started 2016, but it will come, and it's really moving.
And I think Bryce is making a demand out of the Cardano community to make it very simple and easy for everybody to be part of that. And that's what we actually need and what we demand from developers and infrastructures, because what we'd like to achieve, I think everybody here, is that we don't talk about tokenization anymore. The technology will just work fluently, like the introduction of the HTTP protocol or Wi-Fi, or like like our generation not asking about how to connect to the internet. It just works, and email just works. So with any tokenized asset, it will be as simple as sending an email to be part of like an investment community, and democratizing the access to this investment class, which
to make it
typically
really, really easy.
Yeah, yeah. So that's our demand from you as the Cardano community, to make it easier to join the next growth wave of the industry.
I'll give you a simple example from the technology perspective again, right? Think of how banking was 20 years back, right? You used to actually go physically to the bank, collect cash, put it in your wallet, you spend and kind of account it for yourself, right? And think of what you do now. Each and every person has their own banking account, even in the family, right? You can just log in, you can take your money out or in, you can invest, you can do everything, right? So if you look at real world assets like real estate in this case, as I studied this, you can see the transition happening from the paper economy to the digitization of the real estate's economy. So think of, let's say, 10 years forward. How would you have it? You would actually log into a portal. You can just buy digitized assets, including real estates, and you could just play around it as you are doing with banking right now in a digitized form, right? It's centralized, but it's still digitized. And that transition has to happen, but there are a lot of obstacles. Now, the reason why it takes long is because there's something called a technology adoption cycle. it's like 7 to 8 years, 6 to 7 to 8 years. So any technology company that starts at the very beginning, it has a very small growth. It's called an S-curve growth. So initially you don't notice it. It's very, very tiny. It's like 1 or 2% adoption, which is currently the case with real-world asset tokenizations, including real estate. And then suddenly after 6, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, just as you see BlackRock entering and the big players entering, you will have an exponential growth because a very small adoption suddenly to a 5x, 10x, 100x adoption. And that's the cycle we are in right now. So we're in a very early stage of tokenization. And as these platforms, which allows you to store your own identity, right, who you are, what you are, log in, just put in all your information, digitize it, legalize it, and start selling your stuff, right? That process is on. That's where we are trying to build this platform as a root. It tries to address this problem. And this is the vision I want to give you. This is what's coming.
So it's a lot about the user experience.
Yes.
Marcus, please.
So I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. I don't think we are so early. And look, I'm not differentiating between fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens, right? I think we already saw a mass adoption, the NFT boom, right? And quite honestly, I do not own any security tokens. I need to say, 0. But I own a lot of NFTs. Why is that? Because it's way easier. I understand it. I do not need to read a term sheet. Right? So the experience of really investing, trusting in it, it's way easier. Right? I love buying NFTs. It makes sense. It's kind of tangible, even if it's virtual. And the security tokenization play is still really complicated. And I'm getting here to the contrapoint. I'm sorry for that. So I disagree that we do not see the mass adoption yet. Not at all. The retail market out there, they want to invest. We saw it with the NFTs. But then suddenly, we have all the Terras, the FTXs, and all the different Celsiuses of the world, right? So retail got scared away again. So, and I think this is the one advantage the Cardano ecosystem is having. The Cardano ecosystem, and really, shout out here to everybody. It's legit. There are more or less no hacks, or no hacks at all, right? We do not have the Celsiuses, we do not have the FTXs. This is really the blockchain to build a trustful tokenization economy on it. And last 5 cents on tokenization and some divisions. So for me, tokenization, it's like global trade. When they standardize the shipping containers, we see all the cargo ships with the thousands of shipping containers on it. This was only possible because they standardized the shipping container. The length, the width, everything, right? This is standardized. And what we now see on the Cardano blockchain is the standardization of tokenization, and this is kickstarting the digital global trade.
Let's define a couple of things for the audience, I think, which is important. We are talking about tokenization. I think, just to repeat, tokenization is a process where we basically have a digital representative of an asset. And what kind of assets can be tokenized? I often say everything that can be tokenized will be tokenized. So we've seen a lot of stupid things being tokenized as well, but also some very useful things where it's like unlocking new business opportunities. In general, we do see money can be tokenized. Big topic here, Cardano. What's going on with the stablecoin, for example? That's something which is, I think, a good use case already, where we see there are large stablecoins out there being tokenized money. Then there could be tokenized financial assets. So any financial product which are out there could be tokenized. We've tokenized bonds. So we have 4 tokenized bonds with LCX Earn, offering a fixed yield. And then there's this asset class where we call it real-world assets, like things you can touch. Could be real estate, it could be paintings, could be cars, watches, diamonds, for example. And with that, in particular, the Liechtenstein Blockchain Act has created a role, this physical validator, as an underlying liable, responsible person or institution who is taking care of this bridge from the physical world to the digital world. And with the diamonds is a good example because we need to make sure as the physical validator that the diamonds are stored in a vault safely, that they're insured, nobody can go there and steal it, but also making sure that the diamonds we got are not stolen, they're not like blood diamonds or anything like that. But and then also making sure that they're not borrowed. You know, like I just borrow your asset and then I tokenize it, and that's the crucial element if you speak about tokenization of anything. That the underlying asset is secured, kind of a physical safekeeping, that it's actually there, and there needs to be a trusted and also a law on it where users can rely on. So if you buy one of the diamonds, you can be sure that you can enforce your rights at court in Liechtenstein if you want to get it. Of course, like with our service, you can just redeem it. We'll send the diamond to you anytime if you want. But you know, we're talking about making crypto and blockchain like a reliable, large industry, and that's why this legal clarity is a fundamental element which we need.
Yes. So just related to what Monty said, on our platform, precisely what we are creating is that this role of verifiers for the real estate documents. Because most of the real estate part is actually going via documentation, right? So whenever you tie a real world asset, and in this case, luckily, you don't need a vault to put a house, right? The house is there. It's static unless and until somebody flies off the house, right? It's there. So, but you do need the verification of the documents. And for that, the real world actors like notaries, lawyers, and anybody else, for example, they are already registered with the government, right? And what we are trying to do is to basically bring them into the blockchain world, saying that you register yourself as a verifier with this and this role. And then when the documents are put for verification, you can come and do the entire thing, the signing and everything digitally. And you might, if you want really to enforce the real world documents as well, you can just put them up, right? So this kind of complements what the role of verifiers, as Monty put it, but in a different way. And this, I see that propagating more and more forward. This is the way forward in which you actually can fully trust, put the entire trust of the real world assets into the blockchain. And everybody can see it, everybody can verify it. So it's so-called don't trust, but verify. So that's what we are trying to build, something which you yourself as a user, your own identity can be verified, identity of a lawyer or others can be verified, and in the end, you can actually verify the asset itself.
Thank you very much, and I think that was important again to hear the collaboration you have when you're also speaking about the very validators, the verification piece. But then also I think, Reese, there is something when we speak about the wealth managers, when it's about how can they actually have access and are they needed in the future as well?
It's always the big question. Do we go retail? Do we go B2B? How to do? Wealth manager, they have a big role to play. Why? It's because they are the one managing the wealth of many people. So the impact on the investment is very big. So that's the major people coming to us. But to step back, I have a question for you. Who is buying stocks? Yeah. Okay. Was a wallet for tokens or for cryptos? Okay. Who would like to make good revenues with easy investment? Okay. So that's this easy investment that we need to work on, really to have access to all those processes. Because to be honest, I don't care about what makes the thing working. And the wealth manager are the same. What they want is a good underlying asset that you make sure you can enforce and know who is the actual owner. So with the different law in the different regions and different paperwork. But this, when you go to the bank or when you buy a stock of anything or a token or a Bitcoin or ADA, you don't care because you go on the platform and you know it's regulated. You will not check if it's a legit one or not. So that's what we are working on. That's what we need to achieve, but we need to do it collectively. And then you will have access to that. You already have access in many platforms, depending on the countries where you are. So I really encourage you to try and do that because like that, through the Cardano community, through everyone, the retail will be open. And next year, we will be here, and you will be able to buy anything.
The main argument I have against that part is that the whole world is not Europe or US.
That's correct. That's correct. But
So therefore,
step by
if
step.
you're so Cardano as a let's say a force to reckon with was starting with the theme of Africa, right? And the people at the edges, we wanted to move power to the edges, right? So this argument that people don't really care is actually not holding in less developed countries. So we stay in Europe, we are used to all the systems, and we take it for granted. Well, the rest of the world doesn't. And that's where you actually need a system in place which is fundamentally better than what we have now. So think of it from that standpoint, because if you make it for the developed world, you can throw a blockchain because there's enough centralized part not to need a blockchain. People are already like very happy with the kind of systems that they have, right? We can trust these systems, but let's say 90% of the world isn't like that. And that's where this thing, that viewpoint, you have to fundamentally have a differentiated viewpoint so that it reaches the masses of the world, not just the developed countries.
And let me quickly switch from the development world to Swiss asset management. Right? I worked for Swiss asset management, fund administration and everything. Guess what is the number one tool in the asset management industry? Microsoft spreadsheet, right? It's Excel, really, spreadsheet up and down. And you know the thing I want to say here is tokenization and blockchain will fundamentally change the way the asset management in the industry is working. It's changing assets, operations, and the products itself. Just take a fund. You know, usually you have your spreadsheet asset, you go through, you calculate who is getting how much distribution, and somebody is working more or less for a week to really calculate the fund distribution. If you have a tokenized fund share, right, an LP share, the distribution is following automatically the token. Can be traded, can be everything, and the distribution is automatically following it. So this is really fundamentally changing the whole asset industry. And this will happen, right? Because it's more or less optimizing the whole internal process, and it's making it more traceable, more reliable. And then if we achieve that, for sure there are a lot of applications on the retail side as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this. Unfortunately, time runs up, but I want to give you a last statement of actually your contribution, your learnings, where you see the story goes. We heard standards, we heard so many different things. Monty, what is most crucial for you that we can succeed in the coming years and actually achieve the goal that we can do actually as well across the border, work together and see that the adoption is coming along?
So what we currently need is adoption, and at this tipping point of that tokenization is technically possible, the right use cases. And that's why it's important for all the entrepreneurs out there to look into all different kind of possibility to unlock new asset classes, to unlock illiquid assets, and to make it very easy to participate. And maybe that's not even a security or investment which needs to be highly regulated, but something like easy everybody can join as a movement. So we need a movement of tokenization. And I think the future is now, so let's make it happen.
So from my side, I would say that I see the success only coming from the collaboration between the different parties, right? So if you run an exchange, for example, it takes a long time to create a regulated exchange, right? So we create the software, for example, from the identity verification perspective, tokenization perspective, how we can cross-collaborate, right? Then setting in certain set of standards, right? So across the asset tokenization, can we set in good standards that can be replicated? So even if there are 100 parties around the world, around the globe, developing something that we can straight away agree on what it means. That's for me the key.
Perfect.
Go Cardano.
For me is to have a great party tonight. That's really the first thing coming in my mind. A good sleep tomorrow morning. And now please come talk to us. just exchange, discuss with everyone, and then we'll see one step at a time.
Perfect. Collaboration, driving it, the adoption together, educate, make it a great user experience. Underlying technology is important for us here. The end user most likely doesn't need to know how it works when you look at actually mass adoption. And I think we can create a value chain across you here when we look actually at the whole tokenization, issuing process, accessibility, and the infrastructure side as we discussed today. So thank you very much for being here to actually helping us to understand what you're working on and how your contribution really helps to change the world as it is today and create a better future which is more equal and accessible for everyone.
Thank you for giving us the
Thank you,
opportunity to
Sandro.
speak here. Thank you.